It's like the media hits full panic mode the moment common sense enters a room, and Karoline Leavitt is the panic button they never saw coming. As Trump's press secretary, she's not playing the polite intern role. She's flipping scripts, torching recycled narratives, and walking away cool as ever, like dismantling media spin is just part of her Tuesday routine.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room.
Karoline Leavitt isn't playing nice. She's playing smart. Every time a reporter throws a preloaded gotcha question her way, she claps back so hard you can hear the discomfort echo across the press room. No flinching, no filler, just razor-sharp facts that leave journalists scrambling. 1 second she's answering questions, the next she's flipping the entire narrative. Today, we're diving into her latest mic drop moments. Every savage comeback, every jaw-dropping correction, and every time a smug reporter thought they had her cornered, only to end up looking completely lost on live TV. From her first cutting reply to the final stunned silence, you won't be able to look away.
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is. The Secretary of Interior has made that the official designation in the geographical identification name server, and Apple has recognized that, Google has recognized that, pretty much every other outlet in this room has recognized that body of water as the Gulf of America, and it's very important to this administration that we get that right, not just for people here at home, but also for the rest of the world.
Now let's talk about when the chaos really hit the fan. It all started when the Associated Press decided to dig in over semantics, outright refusing to recognize the Gulf of America, clinging instead to the centuries-old Gulf of Mexico. Their excuse? It's been that way for 400 years. Yes, seriously. They claimed international bodies hadn't signed off on the name change, like journalism needs a global permission slip to evolve. It wasn't about accuracy. It was about control, plain and simple. But the mess didn't end there. A CNN reporter followed up a question so bold it nearly ignited the entire press room. And Karoline? She was more than ready. She didn't buy the journalistic principle excuse for a second. According to her, they weren't acting like journalists at all. They were activists in press badges, defending their sacred narratives instead of seeking the truth. Then came the real fallout. When the White House finally pulled the AP's access, the media meltdown began. The AP's executive editor fired off a dramatic letter to the chief of staff, accusing the administration of punishing them for their speech and vowing to vigorously defend their constitutional rights. And, of course, the public's right to independent coverage.
3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have been going with the worst first. They all have a criminal record?
And welcome to the briefing
If they broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yes.
Thank you.
Let's be real. That's not defending journalism. That's straight-up gaslighting. The public still has full access to AP stories. They're just not reading them anymore. Why? Because trust in the AP has tanked. Their bias is so loud, it drowns out the facts. So enough with the martyr complex. If the AP really wants to bounce back, maybe stop whining and start reporting again. Now that would be a plot twist. And then came the moment that truly spotlighted the press corps' cluelessness. A reporter casually admitted they didn't know that crossing the U.S. border legally is, wait for it, actually illegal. Yes, really. This is where we are now. Members of the national media who don't even grasp basic U.S. law. And this right here explains a lot. Like why illegal border crossings have plummeted by a staggering 90% since Trump stepped back into office. Just ask the New York Post. But don't expect CNN or MSNBC to mention it. They're too busy twisting headlines and dodging facts. Funny how fast the chaos fades when a president actually enforces the law. No more loopholes, no more open invites, just results, and suddenly, that overwhelming flood becomes a quiet trickle.
And may I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here. And for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
But Karoline Leavitt didn't stop at shutting down clueless reporters. She turned the heat way up on left-wing lawmakers, too. Let's talk about that meltdown. The anti-Doug protests were less about substance and more like performance art. Screaming matches, dramatic walkouts, and statements clearly crafted for the cameras. Here's the kicker. If anyone on the right pulled even half of those stunts, the media would be calling for handcuffs and congressional hearings. The hypocrisy? Off the charts. What made it even worse? Most of them didn't even mention the actual waste they were allegedly protesting. It was all noise, outrage, and a desperate bid for airtime. Typical. They were too busy drooling over Elon Musk tweets and chasing Dogecoin to notice what was really happening. Then, boom, Karoline dropped the real bombshell. She aimed straight at Politico, and what she exposed had jaws hitting the floor. No! Politico didn't walk away with an $8.2 million check in hand. But let's not play dumb. Millions were funneled through subscriptions to their Elite Pro plan, a premium service packed with policy deep dives and exclusive insider access designed for Washington's top power players. Sure, not every dollar came from USAID, but a fat chunk came from multiple federal agencies, all funded by your tax dollars. Politico tried to cover it with a slick, technical statement. We have never received government funding. No subsidies, no grants, no handouts. Technically, true. But technically true isn't the same as honest, because the reality is public money still ended up in their pocket via high-price subscriptions, some costing up to $15,000 a year, for access to reporting that helped shape Washington narratives. So yeah, the press room was spinning, and Karoline, still unbothered.
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's book.
So do the math. How many federal employees had to sign up for Politico Pro for that total to hit $8.2 million? That's not journalism. That's a business model built on cozy connections and institutional backing. And Karoline? She aired it all out like it was just another Tuesday. But the real cherry on top, while reporters were busy shouting over each other, and the press room spiraled into chaos, Karoline stayed cool, calm, and razor sharp. She shut them down in real time, one by one, and made it look effortless. And let's be clear, her impact doesn't stop at that podium. Karoline Leavitt is shaking up the media game both inside and out, and the old guard, they're losing their grip fast. But she wasn't done. Asterisk, not even close star. She cranked up the heat even higher when she started exposing what she called the media's selective outrage and their straight-up propaganda playbook. Next on her list, MSNBC. One smug reporter brought up the so-called crisis at the border, except they conveniently skipped the part where illegal crossings have plummeted since Trump returned. Karoline didn't let it slide. She called it out with facts, and the room, dead silent.
A common sense approach.
The president said he will work on extending the Abraham Accords. Mr. Whitcomb, the president said he wants to...
Yeah, thank you. Can you direct traffic? Yeah, thanks.
Let's act like adults here. They are generously offering their time to answer your questions. You don't need to scream at them like a bunch of school children. Ouija, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Karoline Leavitt didn't flinch. When a reporter tossed out a question about the ongoing border crisis, She clapped back, cool as ever. Crisis? You mean the one we solved? The silence that followed? Absolutely deafening. Then came the fireworks over a leaked memo suggesting that several major networks were quietly pressured to downplay President Biden's public stumbles. Karoline didn't miss a beat. She brought receipts. She turned the tables, asking why the same media that obsessed over Trump's fast food habits suddenly plays dumb when Biden struggles to finish a sentence. And the look on those reporters' faces? Priceless. But she didn't stop at exposing media bias. Karoline aimed straight at DC's favorite tool, hypocrisy. She tore into the double standard where conservative voices are branded extreme, while unhinged outbursts from the far left get written off as passion. Her words cut deep. Asterisk. If the rule only applies to one side, it's not a rule, it's a weapon. Asterisk. And she's not just playing defense. She's rewriting the whole playbook. You can feel the panic from legacy media outlets that have no idea how to handle someone who actually answers their questions and flips the entire script while doing it. Karoline isn't following their lead. She's torching it. Then she went even further, calling out not just individual reporters, but the institutions that prop them up, especially the ones that pretend to be neutral. When NPR dropped a smug editorial touting their independence, Karoline lit them up. She asked what no one else in the room had the nerve to say. Asterisk. If you're truly independent, why do your editorial decisions always lean one way? Asterisk. Then came the receipts. NPR's lopsided election coverage, softball interviews for Democrats, and attack pieces on Republicans that read like campaign ads. And guess what? Not a single reporter in that room challenged her. Not one. She closed by tearing into the media's obsession with identity politics over policy. They're more interested in labeling people than listening to them, she said. And with reporters fishing for controversy, she didn't take the bait. She exposed the trap.
It is a good question, April. So look, the president, as you know, is incredibly accessible. First day here, he wanted all of you in the Oval Office. You got a 60-minute press conference with the leader of the free world while he was simultaneously signing executive orders. I may add, that's pretty impressive. I don't think the previous office holder would be able to pull such a thing off. So look, the president is the best spokesperson that this White House has. And I can assure you that you will be hearing from both him and me as much as possible.
It was like watching a chess master dismantle a room full of amateurs who still thought they were holding the upper hand. Spoiler, they weren't. The viral moment came fast when one reporter accused Karoline Leavitt of dodging a question. She didn't even flinch. No raised voice, no theatrics. Just a calm smile and one cutting line. Asterisk, you didn't like the answer because it wasn't the one you came for. Asterisk boom. Instant silence. Cameras flashed. Within minutes, that clip was everywhere on X. Karoline isn't just holding the press accountable. She's making it fashionable to call out the nonsense in real time. And just when you thought she might ease up, she doubled down. This time, she went after the so-called fact-checkers. You know, the self-appointed truth police who somehow always manage to correct conservatives while giving the left a free pass. Karoline dragged them into the spotlight, calmly pointing out how many of these fact-checks are little more than glorified opinion columns dressed up with fancy graphics. She said it plainly. Asterisk, when you're funded by the same people you're supposed to fact-check, how is that objective? Asterisk, the room went quiet. She cited a viral post, completely accurate, but slapped with a missing context label because it made the administration look bad. Her rebuttal? Asterisk, missing context, is just code for we don't like how this sounds. Asterisk again, no one argued. They couldn't. Then she dropped a knockout. Asterisk, if fact-checkers were doing their job, they'd be too busy fixing the White House transcript to go after memes. Asterisk, savage. And spot on. But Karoline wasn't done. She closed with final power move aimed straight at President Biden. No soft language, no diplomatic hedge. She took aim at the mixed messages, the scripted appearances, the persistent confusion that seems to trail him like a second shadow. Her last line? Asterisk, we don't need a president who reads from cue cards. We need one who can lead without them. Asterisk, the room froze. No comebacks, just reporters staring at their notepads, scrambling to write down the moment they got steamrolled. Karoline didn't just survive her first press briefing, she owned it. She walked into the lion's den and left the lions whimpering. She exposed the spin, rewrote the rulebook, and proved she's not just another press secretary. She's a serious problem for any media outlet hoping to coast on narrative alone. Now it's your turn. What moment had you clapping, nodding, or yelling "say that again" at your screen? Drop it in the comments. And if you know someone who still thinks press briefings are boring, send this their way. Because Karoline just made politics must-watch TV. Like, subscribe, and buckle up, this is just the beginning.